Hello, everyone. I am Treggies, and I am in a dance party in Valadraken in the hidden inn inside the other inn in Valadraken, where you have to go to the statue in the back, and then you bow before it, and then you get entrance to here. And apparently, they throw a dance party in here at the top of every hour. The things you can find out on YouTube. But I'm not here to discuss that. I wanted to talk about something I've been discussing on my stream here and there, and I decided to fully uh, pull the trigger on it. I am going to make my ideal season 3 dungeon pool for Dragonflight. Now, some ground rules for this list that I made. I made this list for fun. I wanted to generate some discussion on what dungeons the World of Warcraft player base would want to see next season. I am not a top level Mythic Pluser, but it is some of my favorite content in World of Warcraft. I admittedly made this list the other day. I semi forgot what I picked. I also haven't fully taken into account all the item drops in these dungeons. It may be horribly balanced to favor two-handed strength weapons, and it might be cursed for other classes. Again, this list isn't very serious. I didn't make a spreadsheet with every drop and make sure it's perfectly balanced, so every armor class, has 2 or 3 drops from, the entire pool. I apologize in advance if it's horrendously balanced in that regard. Some of the dungeons on my list I do not like. I'll be brutally honest. I think some of them were maybe given a bad rap when they came out, or we didn't fully appreciate them. I will explain a little bit better once I get to them on my list. But one of the things I heard about from really top level streamers and stuff was people kind of get bored running their Shadow Moon Burial Grounds, their Underrots all day, and I kind of wanted to make a list that'll maybe not every single dungeon is brutal, but I wanted to, have a bit of a variance. Maybe just be a bit different. Maybe have a have a pool of dungeons where everyone is miserable. I don't know. Again, I want it to just be kind of fun, but all older dungeons in my list would be given Temple of the Jade Serpent and Vortex Pinnacle level updates, where hopefully it's not as bad as Vortex Pinnacle is on launch. I think it's a little bit better now, but some of the trash in there is just horrendous, let's all be honest. But, updated boss fights, updated trash to be kind of more modern day Dragonflight levels. And just I want to reemphasize, the list was made for fun and not to be taken very serious. I'm going to go over now to my very fun photo program that isn't difficult at all to use. Now, as you can see, I already have 2 dungeons on here. It's obviously the 2 Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon Wings that we just got this last week. I don't know what the names for them are going to be. I decided to just rip the name from the achievement that you get. Galakron's Fall from the first 4 bosses, and Murazon's Rise from the last 5 through 8 bosses of the dungeon. I don't know if that's what they're actually going to be called when they come out in Season 3, but I decided to go for that for now because it sounds a little better than just saying upper and lower. But I might still refer to it as upper and lower. And getting that out of the way, there are a couple things about my list. I have 8 dungeons picked in these options. I have them covered with boxes to kind of build suspense, of course. I also have a few spicy curveball dungeons that I think could also work. It's because some of these are weird. I'll fully admit it. It's but again, I want this list to be kind of fun, kind of just see what people think, get people talking about what they want to see in the next patch. And I also have a few honorable mentions that, are almost bonus curveball dungeons that admittedly, those are the ones I don't think will ever we may never see as Mythic Plus without huge changes. Now, without further ado, I'm going to unveil my first dungeon I picked. It may be a bit familiar for some of us. It is that. Oh, this program is really weird, like I said. It is that Waycrest Manor. Now, I'll be brutally honest. Waycrest Manor is probably my favorite dungeon of almost all time. The only thing that would like prevent me from saying it's my favorite is probably the witch boss, the witch triad. Let me get it up on my screen. I'm trying to do this in one take because I've not done much video editing. This is my second crack at it, and I decided that editing together multiple videos at the same time is difficult for me for the moment. I don't have much experience. I've only been doing this for a little over a week now, and this is my first time doing videos. I've only been doing streaming so far, so forgive me for some of my mistakes. So, Waycrest Manor, it was my personal favorite dungeon of BFA, and probably one of my favorite dungeons of all time. I think the place has great boss fights. Again, maybe besides Triad, like that's probably the one real stinker. And I guess also, I'll be honest, Gorak Tool is a pretty boring end boss. And there is some interesting trash. I can't. This is going to be one of the awful things about this video. It's like I'm going to be like, man, yeah, that place, I can't really remember it too well, but I can try to do this. Yes, I'm going to do exactly this. I'm going to bring the list up on the old MDT. Thank you, Narcles, for making this program. It helps a lot of people out. So I do think one of the things about bringing Waycrest Manor back is I do think Blizzard would have to standardize the route, because I think that was probably the biggest headache of this dungeon. If you got like the path up the stairs and to the right, if I remember right, that was like really annoying. Whereas people mostly wanted to always go up and to the left. If I remember right, it's been 4 or 5 years since BFA. We're all horribly old at this point. But let's talk about some trash. Yeah, you always got this like initial pull of just like these stupid soul essence guys. I just remember they're doing like melees and like a random cast, something like that. Yeah. I'm just gonna assume we go over to Triad first. Again, you get like this like trash in the corner. You would always like pull these guys. If you got this pack as well, it was like horrible if you're trying to skip them. Stuff happens. I'm gonna click this so I don't do that. So if I remember this boss fight right, it was a council fight, which is it's kind of weird for dungeons, but you had to. It's not like a normal council fight. It's just like one mob is targetable at a time with their iris ability they have. They would like pass it around, and depending on which one has the iris, they have like a special like full ability, if I remember correctly. And it was like you would lust the second one, if I remember right. Again, I don't really like this fight. This is probably like the only reason I'd be like, I don't actually want this dungeon to come back, is for this one fight in particular. It was kind of weird. But I really like the rest of the dungeon. And again, I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm actually gonna discuss too much trash, because trash is trash, and unless like, I'm just trying to think, it's like, is any of this trash in here like really like overbearing? It's been a little too long. I can't fully remember. It's like I just don't. It's like, don't absolutely crush the tanks on fortified weeks, unless you're doing like MDI levels of pull everything in the courtyard and lusting, right? It's like I'm going for fun, casual stuff I want to see. I don't know. This boss, like I always liked Soulbound Goliath as a boss, because it was like a nice like tank check, if I remember right. He would get like a stacking attack buff the entire time, and the tank would have to run it into fires that would be spawned. Something like that, yeah. Then you got the old pig guy in the corner. I really enjoyed this fight as a Fury Warrior because it would occasionally spawn in like 5 mobs. 5 mobs plus Fury Warrior equals good times. Nice cleave. Um, Going through. I remember this padding witch was really annoying. Although I remember being able to spell reflect this as a prot warrior tank, and it was really nice because it's bonus damage taken. Again, I'm not going to care too much about trash right now. The old Lady Waycrest and Lord Waycrest fight. The main issue I remember with this fight was whenever like Lady Waycrest would spawn in, she would have like the tendency to just like melee a range. She was like happens to be standing here in the dead middle of the room, and it would be very unlucky. So hopefully they would like fix that to not instantly kill a range just for standing in the wrong place. But at the same time, if that's like an intended mechanic of don't be on top of the boss as it's pulling, I guess that is a fair enough thing. And there was also this guy. He was just like a big target dummy. You're actually like reducing her health, but she would heal him every time he almost dies, if I remember right. And he would do that stupid circle that would spread, which is kind of different. I feel like it's been a minute since we've had a mechanic like that in Mythic Plus. Although I wasn't going to mention trash, I now remember these guys that would just like absolutely annihilate someone. Like I think they jumped to the furthest target and they would just obliterate them if you don't have your group like spread out in a good way. Or like I think you would drag it to, there would be these little alcoves on the side. I think you would like be able to snap it. That'd be the other thing about any BFA dungeon. I'm curious. I mean, Blizzard's already done it where they've like removed snapping in most Dragonflight dungeons. More than likely, they would do the same in any old BFA dungeon because that was a unintended game mechanic at the time. And moving on to the last boss in here in Waycrest, good old Gorok Tool, which was a tool boss. He would just summon in these ads, and there'd be like a little fire bottle on the ground that you have like these NPC allies, they throw shit and they like try to help you, and it's you just have to like stun the ad, or else they would stun and kill a party member, if I remember right. I'm not sure what else to mention. Again, I'm kind of just winging this video. I kind of want to just get discussion going. It was a fun stream topic I kind of briefly brought up the other day. I kind of wanted to just flesh it out into a video. I apologize if I'm rambling. I'm going to move on. Back to the cringe photo program I use. So again, Dawn of the Infinite, Both Wings, and Waycrest Manor. See my next choice. Cathedral of Eternal Night. Now, this, when I said at the start of the video and like my ground rules of like dungeons I don't like, I would say Cathedral of Eternal Night is one of them. And that's more so because I think the vast majority of the player base back in Legion, whenever this dungeon came out, we all avoided this place like the plague. Because it was just like we had run our Dark Heart Thickets, our Maw of Souls, our whatever other dungeons at the time. We would run those places like hundreds of times, and as soon as they introduced a new dungeon, we all kind of just like noped out of it. And admittedly, now that I would say I'm in general a better player nowadays, I would be willing to give this place another shot. I want to bring it up on MDT. Thank you again, Mr. Narcoles, for this add-on. We all really like it. Legion. There it is. I'm blind. Okay. I'm not going to discuss trash too much. I just remember there being a big lieutenant guy at the start here. Like this guy, he would like, you'd pull these guys and then he would chase you down. And this was like a kind of gauntlet, but not really a gauntlet. Then you move up, you go to the next room, you get to the first boss. It was this tree guy who I don't have any of the spells, so I don't remember any of these boss fights. If I don't have the spells in MDT, I am kind of doomed. Moving on to the next boss, Thrash Bite. I do kind of remember this fight because he was very similar to the boss from Blackroot Hold, where you would have to charge him into a wall. Or I think it was like the tank would have to soak the charge in that fight. And this fight, you had to run the boss into, like, there would be bookshelves in the room. You would pretty much have 4 charges before you have to kill him. It was like the worst version of Sludge Fist in a dungeon encounter. If I remember right. If I'm wrong, I don't mind, because again, I don't remember this dungeon very well. It's kind of why I want it to be a dungeon in the next season. I think it'll be fun. I hesitate to say fun, just because I don't know, but it will be a learning experience. Let's say. Let's move on to the next. Like, I don't know if I should move on to the next fight. I don't know at all what it is. It's like you get this like spider trash, I remember, and then you do, yeah, it's like the double boss fight where you fight 2 bosses in the same room with, like, you would kill this guy and then you kill these bats and then you get the last boss, which I do vaguely remember this fight, in that you would have like Illidan would come down and you, as the tank, you would like you'd use your Aegis of Agrabah, very similar from the Halls of Valor dungeon from Dragonflight season 1. It was like almost the same, but you had to like block balls like flying in from the sides from like ads Mephistroth would summon in. Again, I don't necessarily know this would be the best dungeon, but I kind of thought like, hey, I probably ran this place all of 5 times throughout all of Legion. Maybe it'd be fun to give it a shot with better skill on my end. Going back over to my very fun photo program, I'm going to unveil my next one. Scholomance. Now, something you may have noticed with these last 2, if I remember right, Waycrest Manor does have primarily, it's like humanoid and undead mobs, if I remember right. Cathedral of Eternal Night has demon mobs. And Scholomance, of course, is probably primarily undead. The reason I've kind of chosen some of these dungeons so far, like, I know I made the list the other day, I kind of forgot what all I picked, but I do remember I kind of took some hints or some reference from the loot from the Dawn of the Infinite mega dungeon. Like, you got like there's some special weapons in there with bonus tertiaries to like demons, undead, humanoid. Like, I can't remember fully what the Tears Hammer effect is, but I kind of figured in a dungeon about dragons, why would they give us a Demon Bane tertiary stat if we're not going to be killing some demons that season? Like, why would they give us Scourge Bane if we're not going to be killing some undead? I kind of just based it on that. Let's go over to Dungeon Journal. Let's go back to Scholomance. In my head, they would do the Mist of Pandaria version, which I suppose, like, another reason I put Scholomance on the list is because they just recently, with 10.1.5, they re-released the old Scholomance. There's like a hidden quest line you can do old school Scholomance, and then Naxxramas. I can't remember if he do old school's Stratholme as well, but I haven't done that thing yet. I'm looking forward to doing it. I want to. I've never earned my Warrior Tier 3 set. I would like to. I don't quite have enough gold for it yet. Yes, I play with Titan Panel. I know it's not 2004, but I am a Titan Panel enjoyer. Back to Scholomance. So again, I don't fully remember this place. I know it's a time walking dungeon. I did try to avoid time walking dungeons in my list, but at the same time, Blizzard has also brought back time walking dungeons for Dragonflight season 1 and 2, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you do Neltharian's Lair as a time walking dungeon. Yeah, so it's not like Blizzard doesn't like time walking Vortex Pinnacle. It's not like they exclude dungeons just because of time walking. I tried to exclude time walking dungeons on my pool because I thought it would be kind of fun to do a old dungeon that maybe people haven't done in a while. Now, sure, what you may be thinking is Scholomance is a time walking dungeon. Scholomance is also a dungeon people have been running recently because of the aforementioned hidden quest to unlock the old version. So people have been kind of poking their head in here. It's not exactly old, but again, I kind of made the list for fun, and I thought it made sense with the like Scourgebane and stuff. They would also have to figure out some trash. I think I'm trying to think. Like, would this place be too linear? I'm really not sure. I'm sure people will. I mean, someone always comes up with the best route through it. Someone like Dratnos or whatever. But I don't really remember the first fight. It like most of these fights are going to be really skewed in our heads because the only thing we've done on these fights within recent memory is like you one shot these bosses in time walking. At most, you might be on Jandis Barov for like a minute because you just haven't killed the right image yet. And like this fight doesn't even have its abilities listed. I don't Yeah, you kill Lillian, but you don't actually kill her, and she fights back at the last boss, and he portals you around in his boss room. Again, not a super serious list. I kind of just threw it in there because I thought it would make sense with the recent Hidden Quest and Scourgebane stat on the Dawn of the Infinite items. Back over to the fun program. My next dungeon I picked, Shadowfang Keep. I believe I picked Shadowfang Keep in a similar way that there's like undead mobs in there, and I also think it's a fun dungeon from what I remember. I can't remember if it's time walking. Where is it at? It's not time walking. So this is probably a dungeon none of us have run in a while, unless you're hunting for transmog or maybe you played it recently on Classic, in which case it's still a different dungeon because you have different boss fights in it now. Don't fully know how well it would transfer. And again, all of these older dungeons would be given updates similar to Temple of the Jade Serpent or VP, where more than likely the trash will actually do mechanics. They won't just blow up in one set of cooldowns. I remember the first boss, he would do the asphyxiate, which I think you could stun it or something, or it was this. Yeah. Interruptible important. It's like I don't I think this is one of those dungeons where it's a bit of a when I made it the other night, it was really late, just like how it's late now. I'm sure you saw my program when I had the other thing up. Yeah, it's 5:30 when I'm recording this because it's nice and quiet. I can actually record it in some peace. But yeah, I made it the other night, and I probably wasn't thinking too hard, but I still think Shadowfang Keep is a cool dungeon. It's a classic dungeon that was updated for Kata, and it's been a long time since I've been here. I kind of want to go back because it's an interesting dungeon from what I remember. I'm going to go ahead and just move on to my next dungeon. Now, I know what we're all thinking. Anyone who played in BFA. Oh my god, Treggies. You fucking picked King's Rest. You're greedy and you want your Cut of Death sword back. And to that, I will respond, yes, I do want Cut of Death back. Now, I know I mentioned at the start of the video, I didn't think about loot tables that hard, but I still think it's fun to have items like that. It's kind of fun to have items like that where it's sort of like a chase item, almost all patch for a warrior a Fury warrior who desperately needs it to even be even considered. It's a bit It's a bit unfun to not have it, but it's still a cool kind of stretch goal item to aim for and try to get like a funnel group going, like of like friends, and you can just pool it up. God, like I do miss this sword. Doesn't have stats on it, but it has like a bleed effect on it. I miss it. There's a lot of has a lot of Azurite armor to get rid of as well. Same with at Waycrest Banner. Like again, it would just get these items would get turned into normal items. I assume it's for someone smarter than me to figure out what to do with the loot in these places. But give me back Cut of Death. I know the boss fights in here were really fun. I'm sure King's Rest was everyone's favorite key to run on Tyrannical Weeks. It was it was definitely mine. You get the old gold serpent boss who would spit gold and summon in ads that would like kill you when they died. They would leave behind pools of gold that would just turbo kill your group on Tyrannical. And it was a fight where you just had to keep the area around the boss clean because he would literally get he would get an absorb shield and a damage buff for every time the ads they would try to move toward the boss, and when they reach him, give him that buff, an absorb shield. And it was really cringe, but luckily I spent most of BFA with a Mistweaver monk, and they kept the boss from collecting gold with a Ring of Peace, and hopefully we just do that again. Kimba the Embalmer, a good old entomb boss where you would have a friend get entombed, and you would have to the person who would get entombed would have to like click a button, and the coffins in the room would shake, and you as the that's the wrong add-on. You as the party members would have to go and click the right tomb. Let me find it again. I am so bad at looking at old expansions. Yeah, there would be tombs on it, like there would be two here, and it would be like this one would be shaking, and you as a warrior, for example, would just leap over all the shit on the ground that the boss would be leaving. It'd be like fire or swirlies or something. I can't fully remember. Yeah, it was burning ground. You would just leap over it, click your friend, get them out, and you would kill the boss in a orderly fashion because it was a tyrannical week and there's definitely no chaos happening. And then you do a also fun trash, not gauntlet, but I do remember the trash on this bridge. It was a time. It was the time of it was the time to do trash. And they would be like, you'd have these hex priests who would heal and stuff. These berserkers that would just straight up fuck your tank into the ground with their bleeds. Yeah, good times. I want those times back. And then you get to another council fight with these guys. And if I remember right, you always fought all three, but every week it would rotate, similar to old Freehold, where it would be like this one first, and then it would be Axe Chick next, and then the caster dude last. It would be something like that. And I think at the very end they're all active. I can't fully remember. Let me see if I can find it. Nope, definitely not. Well, someone smarter than me and probably equipped with VODs. That's also something I could have probably been doing this entire time, is bringing up like a stream VOD of these places at current time back in BFA to get a better idea of like the fights. But I'm pretty bad at what I'm doing so far. But I'm just I'm having some fun. I'm trying to learn. Sadly the dance party is over and the Dragon's Horde, the hidden inn under Valdraken. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about the best part of King's Rest, and it wasn't even a boss. It was a mini boss trash mob that absolutely no one ever bricked their key to, because he would do there would be like a single soak thing on like the far side of the room, and he would just be killing your party while you're trying to also deal with a mob that I'm pretty sure on most fortified weeks you'd lust him over, you know, the last boss or the council boss. You would just save it for this guy because he was just that bad. But then you get to King Dazar, and if I remember right, this was actually like a fun boss to tank at the time. He would do this blade combo that, for whatever reason in my head, I remember liking this boss fight. Maybe that's just weird nostalgia. Maybe it's because I had been spamming this place for like the 40th time, hoping that I'd finally get my Cut of Death sword and I'd be rid of this place. But I mostly remember liking this boss fight. He would leap around, and there would be oh yeah, he would spawn in his raptors at like 70 and 50% or something, and you would have to kill them really quick because one of them would fixate your ranged and almost kill them. Again, I liked this place mostly for the loot. It had good loot. Not that I want to make my list based on loot, but that was a dungeon that, in that regard, I like the loot in there, so I want it back. Moving on to my final dungeon in my intended Season 3 pool. This one's going to be a real curveball and probably the biggest stretch on this list. Similar to the other dungeons where it's like, you got undead, you got demons. I decided to throw in, I'm sure everyone's favorite, people who've been playing Wrath Classic, Halls of Stone. Halls of Stone is that one dungeon in Wrath of the Lich King with the trash gauntlet in it. It would have the Tribunal of Ages thing where you stand in the room and you just slowly kill mobs over and over. Now, I think that boss fight would have to be reworked. Maybe it could just be like a trash gauntlet that would give you like half of your percent or something. I don't know, but if I remember this boss fight, you would like jump to avoid the damage. I didn't, like, I'll be brutally frank, I haven't played Wrath Classic, so I actually haven't done these dungeons probably since... I probably haven't run any of the Wrath dungeons since like my last character I leveled like 2 or 3 years ago, like from 0. It's been a minute. You would also have Maiden of Grief, who would drop the big old Oreos on the ground that if you stood in them, you would die, even on heroic. Probably on heroic in Wrath Classic, it's probably caught a few people. And you get your also fun trash gauntlet. Again, this would probably all have to be reworked to be playable and fun for Mythic Plus. I don't think I mentioned it. The reason I picked Halls of Stone is because just like the undead, just like the demons, I picked Halls of Stone because of the Dawn two-handed item for healers. It had this bonus effect for various Uld locations throughout the game, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to actually have it be useful in some content. Like, not necessarily that you would when you form your group, you'd be like, okay, I need a ranged caster boomkin with infinite hand, fully maxed out, to come and just kill the trash for us, because the weapon has a bonus effect to just deal damage while you're in Ulduar specifically for this this example. It'd be really awkward if Halls of Stone doesn't actually count as being a part of Ulduar, because this the entire argument for this dungeon would then fall out of any consideration, I think. Another reason I think this dungeon would be a real stretch on my list, at least, is because just like I mentioned, Wrath Classic is a thing that only came out 9 or 10 months ago. I'm sure classic players have spammed themselves to death in here, farming for their pre-raid bis. item that, you know, it's like, man, they sat through that gauntlet probably 10 times more than they would like in their lives, considering they already spammed it back in Wrath of the Lich King. So again, that's my intended season 3 Mythic Plus pool. Good old The Two Wings of Dawn of the Infinite, Galakron's Fall, Murazan's Rise, Waker's Banner, personal favorite dungeon of mine, Cathedral of Eternal Night, a sort of bastard child dungeon that I and a lot of World of Warcraft players at the time probably wrote off and avoided at all at all cost. Skullomance, a dungeon that's never been a Mythic Plus. Same with Shadowfang Keep and Halls of Stone. They would probably need some decent reworks to become playable in Mythic Plus. And good old King's Rest is another kind of Stockholm Syndrome level of nostalgia key that I enjoyed at the time. Now, moving on to my spicy curveball dungeons that are like bonus. These ones are, I mean, you can't get like more stretched out than Halls of Stone and Shadowfang Keep, Skullomance for Mythic Plus, but I have decided to do that in a couple of these. My very first one, Scarlet Monastery. Now, what's in Scarlet Monastery? I think I mostly picked Scarlet Monastery just because like it's been a minute since we fought any Scarlet people, and I miss fighting those guys. They have some of the more iconic like evil guys, generic evil religious crusade people in the game. You know, it's kind of the shtick of the Scarlet Crusade. I think these fights would admittedly need to be reworked. I bet you could, keep these guys as they are. You could possibly even roll in Scarlet Halls, although that would be really cursed to have 6 bosses. As well as like that was the original issue with like the original 4 Scarlet Monastery dungeons. There'd be 4 dungeons with like 10 bosses throughout all of them or something. But Scarlet Hall, Scarlet Monastery, they're both kind of like flexing. It's kind of just places that I think it's been a minute since we've done this place, because this place isn't a time walking. This is like one of the ones I picked primarily because it's not time walking. Not a high chance people have been here recently, I think, unless people are extreme random transmog collectors. I don't know if there's any super unique loot in there as I hover over an epic neck in there, but yeah, it's really getting late. I probably should have tried to record this sooner, but I'm just working on things, kind of trying to work on things for stream. I recently made my little avatar thingy here in the corner. Got it working. I'm really happy with how it came out. My little social things just below it, kind of. Even though that's mostly just a slideshow in my Streamlabs, but I'm still really happy with how it came out. So, kind of apologies. I'm kind of starting to flounder at this point at 5:40 a.m. Back to the dungeon, back to Scarlet Monastery. Thalnos' Soulrender, the undead guy that I don't ever remember doing this boss fight, because he would just, like, a lot of these boss fights, the reason like I chose some of these places because like these fights haven't been an actual fight for World of Warcraft players in literally 10 years, 12 years in some cases. Like, when was the last time this, Brother Korloff was actually a menace to anyone? Probably like Mist and Pandaria launch day. This is the last time this guy was a menace to anyone. I just, I think it's a fun dungeon. It's like an iconic old dungeon. I do think like in general, there's a decent amount of dungeons from like Mist that could work for Mythic Plus, Warlords of Draenor, maybe outside of Shadowmoon, because that place was extremely too easy, and you had like 3 boss fights that did pretty much nothing. I mean, every boss fight did pretty much nothing, but Ner'zhul would still screw over some groups who don't have smart ranged, I suppose. Back in good old season 1. So I kind of wanted to do some out of the way ones because Blizzard has been slowly bringing in these older dungeons. Temple of the Jade Serpent in season 1, and then they brought in Vortex Pinnacle for season 2. I figure they probably don't mind dipping their toes this far back. I don't think it's an extremely far stretch. And admittedly, I do remember on my list I had my like very first list I did actually have Utgard Keep or Utgard Pinnacle as like a spicy curveball and or like flex in dungeon. It might actually still be on my list as another one of the the curveball dungeons. I can't remember. Let's see what the next one is so I can maybe make an ass out of myself. Seat of the Triumvirate. Very much a lot of the same thinking in Seat of the Triumvirate as a Cathedral of Eternal Night. Back in Legion, when this place came out, people already knew the drill. It's a new dungeon, and we don't run it. I mostly remember purple floor boss rooms, and purple floor abilities in this place. Like this, like I ran Cathedral of Eternal Night maybe 5 times. I ran Seat of the Triumvirate probably once because this place was not my jam. Like I only boss I remember in here was this guy with like the bat and the cat. It would like kill your ranged or something. And then you'd also have Viceroy who would like spawn in ads or something. Or maybe this guy spawned in ads. Yeah. One of like some of these boss fights. I mean, I think all 3 of these boss fights are like ad fights, except maybe this guy with just the cat. And you'd have like Illyria come in and help you. I think one of the reasons this Seat of the Triumvirate was almost like right next to Cathedral of Eternal Night, but I did think like maybe that would be too much of a stretch to do like 2 bastard dungeons from their time. But I still threw it in as a curveball one because just like Cathedral of Eternal Night, I wrote it off. To me, it would be a new dungeon because I never gave this place a chance back in Legion. So that's why I picked it. I don't know about the loot. I don't really remember the boss fights. Like they all look like ad fights to me. Yeah. I think it'd be interesting. It would be an experience to do Seat of the Triumvirate and Cathedral of Eternal Night. I think either of them could actually be on the next dungeon pool, like legitimately. Let's go back to my fun program. Let's see the next spicy curveball. Oh god, I do remember this one. Look, I bet anyone watching this just like if they haven't facepalmed already, this is probably the point where you facepalm because I put Forge of Souls in here as like a curveball. And if you know about Forge of Souls, you know that it only has 2 boss fights. Would this be the easiest tyrannical key of all time? Maybe. I don't fully remember these boss fights. It's been a long time since I've run this place. I've probably like been in here like during one of the last time walking weeks, but just like always, like you would get to this boss and your Devastation Evoker would just Dragon Rage and kill this fucking guy. What are these boss fights? They haven't been a threat since 2007 and or 2024 when it re-releases in Wrath Classic, I suppose. Just like Halls of Stone, I don't know if Blizzard would actually pick a Wrath of Lich King dungeon because it's anyone who's also playing Classic would be like, wow, I've just grinded my face off in this place for the last 2 months on launch, and now they're going to re-release it as a Mythic Plus dungeon on retail. That sounds like fun to me. I don't know, but I know I haven't played Classic, so a lot of these places are fresh for me. Excuse the voice crack. It's late and I'm tired, and my body's definitely given up a little. For my final curveball dungeon, it is Dead Mines. Now, I'm pretty sure I intend for this to be the reworked Cataclysm version with Vanessa Van Cleef at the end. And the only real boss fight in there I remember would be the Vanessa Van Cleef fight where she would like portal your group throughout the rest of the dungeon. You get like a speed buff and you have to like race back to the ship. I I think that's like an okay mechanic. That's like something we haven't seen in a while. It's been I suppose the last time we had a mechanic like that was Arcway. Like it could be a vibe. I don't really know. Like I've always been nostalgic for Dead Mines, so I think it would be a fun dungeon to go back to. Maybe they'd even like full update it, or even potentially bring back the original version. That would also be a fun, well, maybe potentially fun, like curveball. Like the true curveball is like bring back the original Dead Mines and leave this one in Cataclysm. Uh, Again, there's my list, but I also have a few honorable mentions. I think, admittedly, only one of these dungeons was is an actual like Mythic Plus chance to ever be a thing, whereas the other two I think would need like full scale reworks. I'm gonna go ahead and just unveil them all at the same time. That's right. Blackrock Depths, Wailing Caverns, and Zul'Farrak. Blackrock Depths is an all-time like World of Warcraft fan favorite dungeon as being like the original and like true mega dungeon because it literally had like 18 boss fights in it or something. I definitely ran it in Classic when I did play Vanilla Classic, but it's been a minute. And there is a shit ton of fights in here. I'm not sure if this is reworked for Cataclysm because I think it came back. I can't fully remember, but this place is old. I think it's still a really good dungeon. There are some interesting boss fights that it would be the reason this Blackrock Depths might never be a Mythic Plus dungeon is because they would literally have to cut this into like 4 or 5 wings, and that would be a ton of work, I bet. And or it would be the most like over the top fortified dungeon of all time if they had to make like say the first like let's say they made like 2 out of every 3 boss fights at like a trash encounter, and it was only like Houndmaster Grebmar and Ring of Law is like the actual boss fight in like the first wing. Um, Baelgar and General Angerforge as the actual bosses in that wing, etc. It would be a huge stretch, and I don't realistically think it'll ever happen without a crap ton of work. And in the same vein, crap ton of work, Wailing Caverns. This place would probably be just like it. Although I do think arguably you could just cut it in half. It would still be like 5 bosses here and then excuse me, I kind of had a burp. And then it would also then like 3 bosses for the end of it. You know, it could be a vibe. Lots of bosses in here. They'd probably turn Scum and Crush into just trash mobs, and you could just do that. These are fancy trash mobs in Wailing Caverns East and Scum, Wailing Caverns West or whatever. And I think like this final boss Gauntlet would probably need to get changed. Or it could still be in there as like, you know, similar to Tazavesh Streets, the bar fight, where it's like half of the boss encounter is just like trash waves. I guess it would be similar to that. And then Zul'Farrak. Good old Zul'Farrak. I picked this place because it's another old school nostalgic classic dungeon, which I think it's been a minute since people have been here. Outside of just like the rest of the ones on my honorable mentions list, I guess a lot of people have probably done these recently with like hardcore classic and stuff. So maybe it's like they're not good choices in that regard, but it would still be like they all would need like a lot of work to be playable in the Mythic Plus format. But I think a little bit of work and they could be really fun. It is 8 minutes till 6, and I've been up recording this for close to an hour, so you can tell on the video. I am really milking this, but I wanted to do this video again just to God, it's been a minute, been a day. I made this video just to have some fun, pick some real curveball dungeons that people will probably hate me for. Like I think the ones people don't really would. I don't think people necessarily wouldn't hate me for would be like Wakers Manor, and the other ones people would be like, "What the fuck are you thinking?" Skoloman, Shadow Vankeep, Cathedral, Halls of Stone, King's Rest. Like, are you absolutely insane? Yeah, I guess I am. Um, um. Anyway, I don't know how to end a YouTube video, but this is it. This is my season 3 dungeon pool. I had some fun putting this together. It's this video program I use is very very odd in how it works, but once I like now that I've been using it for like 6 hours total, it's like I'm starting to get used to it, so I'm actually familiar with how it works. It's not that bad, but it's an old program that's I believe it's discontinued from its company that made it. I don't know if that's true, but anyway, I really appreciate if anyone has actually made it to the end of this, or at any point if they if they made it. If anyone even clicked on this video, I'm gonna be surprised, and I really appreciate you clicking on it. I had some fun making this list. I think it's the most fun. Like kind of, I mean, not the most fun. God, I'm a real idiot at this time of night. It was fun to kind of go outside of the box, go into some really old dungeons, actually kind of think about them for a minute. Like I definitely thought about. I actually made like the list probably over the course of like 45 minutes the other night. And kind of thought about. I had a few that didn't make it onto either my honorable mentions or my spicy curveball. Like I mentioned the Utgards. I made those made like the spicy curveballs. I also think I had Nexus in there and Halls of Reflection for like really really out there ones. And I do think that any like this is another thing I'm gonna probably get like some hate for. I didn't really mind Temple of the Jade Serpent in Mythic Plus. Like the Wise Mari fight, I actually really liked that fight. I think they could have done away with the library boss. That encounter was really weird. But I ultimately really enjoyed Temple of the Jade Serpent as like a tank check on this boss and the trash of this boss's room and up to shoved out. Like I'm a weird guy in that account, but that's me. Any other final thoughts? No, it's too late to have any extra thoughts. I'm definitely running on fumes. I suppose it's just you know God, I'm a fucking idiot. You know, do internet things. Go if you like this video, which I'm not sure if anyone will. I would appreciate if you liked it, but if not, it's all good. I would appreciate, you know, all the YouTube things. Subscribe for potentially more content. I can't fully promise YouTube videos yet. I would say my first night of doing YouTube videos has been a bit too much work for. I need to probably put in some research into how to actually use Vegas Pro and what other program was I using? I can't remember now. I need to learn how to use Vegas Pro. I'm using an older version that I got from Humble Bundle a couple of years ago, and it worked. It works. It's a thing. But yeah, do all the YouTube things. Subscribe, like, comment. It would be helpful. Can't promise YouTube content fully yet, but I can definitely promise I'm going to be doing a lot of Twitch streams for the foreseeable future. So I would really appreciate if you would go down into the description, find my social links. My Twitch will be there. I'll have my Twitter link as well. I I don't use Twitter a ton. I've kind of been using it as like a random thoughts and stream announcement thing, but it's a thing. I really appreciate everyone tuning in, watching this video or watching my stream. Any attention at this point in my internet content creation career is deeply appreciated. I especially God, I especially appreciate anyone listening to my dumb rambling ass for this long. I'm gonna go ahead and end it because I can't keep going. Thank you again for watching. Do the things. Treggies out.